Welcome to the chilling world of Shadow Tales Teller, where the ice runs deep and the silence screams louder than words. They say when a lake freezes completely solid, it traps much more than just the cold, dark water beneath the thick ice. In the small town of Gray Hollow, the locals believe the lake does not sleep in the dead of winter. It listens to every footstep, waiting for the silence to break. And when the ice is finally thick enough, it whispers. It whispers back to those who are lonely enough to listen, calling them toward the center where the water is deepest. Gray Hollow sits deep in northern Minnesota, a place where winter lasts longer than memory and silence feels heavier than snow. At the edge of town lies Blackwater Lake, a vast frozen mirror surrounded by ancient pine trees that block the sun. There are no fish swimming below, no birds flying above, and no wind to disturb the perfect stillness of the ice. Just ice, stretching out for miles, a cold, hard barrier between the living world and the secrets buried underneath. The locals avoid it after sunset, closing their curtains tight and turning up the radio to drown out the silence. They do not stay away because it is dangerous. They stay away because the lake calls people by their full name. It knows who you are. It knows what you have lost, and it uses that knowledge to pull you into the dark. 30 years ago, a tragedy struck this town when a school bus skidded off an icy road during a blizzard. It plunged into Blackwater Lake, carrying 22 children and 2 teachers into the freezing depths before anyone could help. There were no survivors that day, and the lake froze over completely before the rescue teams could even arrive at the scene. By morning, the ice had sealed them inside, creating a tomb that would never be opened by human hands again. They were never recovered, their bodies remaining preserved in the cold darkness, waiting for a spring that never seems to come. After that terrible winter, people began hearing voices drifting from the lake, soft and gentle, impossible to ignore. They were familiar voices, whispers rising from beneath the ice, sounding exactly like the children who were lost that day. The town tried to move on, but the lake would not let them forget, keeping the memory alive with every whisper. It was not the wind howling through the trees. It was a chorus of the dead calling out to the living. My name is Ethan Cole, and I moved to Gray Hollow last winter after my father passed away unexpectedly. I rented a cabin near the lake because it was cheap, quiet, and isolated enough to grieve in peace. On my very first night, I heard the whispers starting. Faint at first, like a radio left on in another room. It was not screaming, and it was not crying. It was just my name being spoken over and over again. Ethan, the voice said, clear as a bell in the silence of the night, making my blood run cold. I told myself it was just the wind playing tricks on my tired mind, trying to rationalize the impossible. I was wrong, because the wind does not know my name, and the wind does not sound so desperate. The whispers only came at night, always between 2 and 3 in the morning, the darkest part of the soul. They sounded close, as if someone were standing just outside my window, pressing their lips against the thin glass. But when I gathered the courage to look out, the lake was empty, just a vast expanse of white nothingness. One night, the voice changed, shifting from a stranger's whisper to a tone that I recognized with heartbreaking clarity. It sounded exactly like my father, his voice trembling with a coldness that reached through the glass and touched my soul. Ethan, I am so cold, the voice pleaded, sounding weak and fragile, exactly how he sounded before he died. That is when I realized something terrifying about this place, something that science and logic could never explain. The lake does not invent voices to trick you. It uses the dead you miss the most to lure you in. I could not stay in that cabin another minute without knowing the truth, so I drove into town at dawn. I went to the town library, pulling out old newspapers, police reports, and handwritten journals from the local archives. Every victim who vanished near the lake had one thing in common, a detail that the police often overlooked. They all followed the whispers onto the ice, walking straight toward the center without ever turning back or stopping. Footprints always led toward the center, but there were never any footprints leading back to the safety of the shore. One journal entry from a man who disappeared 10 years ago ended with a single, chilling sentence written in ink. "They do not want to kill you. They want you to stay with them in the cold forever." I knew then that I should leave, pack my bags, and run. But the voice of my father was too strong. That night the whispers grew louder, filling the cabin with a sound that vibrated in my very bones. They were insistent, angry, and demanding, no longer asking for my attention, but commanding it with supernatural force. The voice of my father begged me to come closer, sobbing about the cold and the darkness surrounding him. "I cannot feel my legs, Ethan. Please help me," he cried, and I could not ignore him any longer. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, the ice cracking ominously beneath my boots with every step I took. I walked further out, guided by the voice that sounded so real, so alive, yet coming from the dead. Then I saw them, and the scream that rose in my throat died before it could ever escape. Faces frozen beneath the surface, eyes wide open, staring directly at me with a hunger that spanned decades. Mouths moving in perfect synchronization, all whispering my name, creating a cacophony that drowned out the wind. The ice began to crack in a perfect circle around me, isolating me on a shrinking island of safety. Hands pressed up from below, pale, bloated, and desperate, trying to claw their way through the barrier to reach me. The whispers became screams, a deafening roar of command that shook the very air around me. "Stay." I ran, slipping and sliding on the treacherous surface, my heart pounding like a hammer against my ribs. The ice shattered behind me as something massive and ancient moved beneath the surface, chasing my footsteps. I reached the shore just as the lake split open, throwing myself onto the snow, gasping for air, and then it stopped. Instantly silent again, the ice reforming as if nothing had ever happened at all. I lay there in the snow, trembling uncontrollably, staring at the innocent-looking ice that concealed a nightmare. I left Grey Hollow the very next morning, leaving everything behind, and I never looked back at that town. But winter follows you, and the cold has a way of finding its way into your bones no matter where you go. Sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and the temperature drops, I still hear it. A faint whisper, drifting through the vents or coming from the sink, soft and chillingly familiar. It is not calling my name anymore. It has given up on luring me back to the water. Instead, it just asks a single question, whispered with the voice of my dead father. "Are you cold yet?" Because once the lake knows your voice, it never forgets. And it keeps a part of you forever. And when winter comes again, it will whisper, waiting for you to answer its call in the dark. So if you ever find yourself near a frozen lake and you hear a familiar voice, do not listen. Run as fast as you can, because the ice is hungry, and it is always waiting for company. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the dark. We hope you enjoy the safety of your home. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to Shadow Tales Teller for more nightmares. Click the video on your screen now to discover another terror that hides in the shadows of our world. Sleep well, and remember to keep your windows locked, for the whispers can travel further than you think.